Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us here again for a Perezpective review, where we'll be discussing 11/22/63, the Hulu original miniseries based on the Stephen King novel of the same name. Today, we're going to be discussing the series as a whole. And today, with me, I have Nick, and Nick's going to help me just go over what we saw on the series, and we'll try to discuss something about the book. What I remember, so it's been a while since I read the book, but we have a couple questions we wanted to go over, and yeah, so let's get to it. First of all, Nick, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah. Well, as Saul said, my name's Nick. I live in the Netherlands. I haven't read the book. I've seen the show. I really like the show. So my question would mostly be about, like, how is it different from the book? And because the show doesn't, I think, explain a lot of characters properly in books. Knowing Stephen King in his books, where every character is usually a couple of chapters or half a book sometimes. I was just wondering why those characters weren't explained fully, and hoping that they would. So yeah, let's go.
All right, so let me ask you this first of all. As far as Stephen King stuff, as books or adaptations of the books, how big or how much have you seen of those?
Adaptations, I think all of them. I've even seen the Tommyknockers. Like, people that don't know Stephen King very well, Tommyknockers is probably the least known of all the Stephen King movies. I think it's not even a movie; it's a miniseries.
Yeah, I think it's a two-parter. I don't think it's a three-parter.
Yeah, and it's basically sort of like aliens that mind control an entire town, and this one guy who has a metal plate in his head who can't be mind controlled because of that. It's let's just say, for adaptations go, that one is out there.
Yeah, I mean, as far as adaptation goes with Stephen King's work, they're very hit and miss. There's very few that are actually either I can't say faithful, but they're actually live up to the expectations of some people. I can't say they're faithful because they do change a lot in the adaptations, which is okay to me, because I always judge the book and the adaptation separately. And I think that's the problem with a lot of people. A lot of people do want to have a faithful adaptation. However, you can't always have that, especially with the books. I think the ones that do better as far as adaptations are the ones that come from short stories, because they don't have to cut a lot of the stuff out. They don't have to do it goes a lot better with story than other stuff that comes out.
Yeah, for a story, it's just easier to work off a short story, like for a script, because you can just sort of take the concept instead of using all of the story. And that way you can sort of use the concept that was created in the short story and then expand upon that. You're not really set to a certain type of rules. For movies, that even works just better. Just movies in general.
Yeah. So let's get started with the show here. Now, when you first heard of 11/22/63 and you heard that that James Franco was being cast as the main character, what did you think of that casting?
But I didn't mind. Like I said, I didn't read the book, so I didn't really know that much about it. I read an overview once. I think I read the back cover and when I was in the bookstore once.
It's a big book.
I like James Franco. So I did. Yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah, I myself, I wasn't too sure what to expect, because James Franco usually comes out on as more comedic roles and stuff, and I wasn't sure. And it wasn't until I saw the preview to it that I was like, okay, he can do it. I know he's a good actor. It's hard to take him seriously sometimes. And actually, one of the comments that were left for one of the other videos, someone sent me as a message on Twitter. He was asking me when we're going to do this, and I told him we'll get around to it. So I asked him what he thought about Franco, and this is what he said. This is Aaron Cummings. I wasn't 100% on the casting of James Franco because I had only primarily seen him as a comical actor. I wasn't sure of such a serious role, but I wouldn't change it for the world. And now, having seen all of 11/22/63, I couldn't think of anybody else that would play the role but James Franco. And so let's talk about the main character, Jake Epping, or and when he goes back to the back, Jake Amberson.
Yeah.
In the book, he starts off with Jake Epping, and he changes his name to George Amberson. So they change that part. But I think
really matter much from.
No. I think it was the very first recap that I had. Had a little bit of a rant on this because I felt that Jake in the show didn't portray he didn't come off as faithful to his story counterpart. In that the show he kind of felt, I don't feel he was so serious about his teaching. I know he had the students that weren't paying attention. He had the people that didn't like, there was reasons for him to be disillusioned. There was reason for him to be all that. But in the book, he's still in love with cheating. He's just sad, and he's upset that kids they don't take the work serious. They don't put in their full effort, and even those that do put in their full effort, they don't have imagination to write. So
I sort of felt that. Yeah, that's kind of what I felt like. He felt about teaching as a whole, and when the guy came out, what's his name again? The older man that he helps in the past. Yeah, when he comes out,
you're talking about Harry.
Has this really good story, and then he sort of gets that spark back for teaching, and you can really see that. So I thought it was good.
So Jake in the book, it starts off with him. They're really setting him up to be someone who is, I guess, the best word I can use myself is stoic. He starts off. He's never been a crying man, is what it says, and it talks about when his wife leaves him. They don't get a divorce. She leaves him because she pretty much found someone else at an AA meeting. And part of the reason is because he says, I never see you cry. I never see you cry even when your mom passed away, your father passed away. And he says he did cry for his mother, but it was in private. He's not someone who shows emotion. And he goes, he didn't even cry when his wife left. I think her name's Christina.
Yeah.
And so I'm bringing it up right now because it's going to be a big part of towards the end here when we talk about Sadie and all that. And so they bring him up, but then he saw Harry's paper and Harry's story about his dad and the hammer and so forth, and he says he just started crying because it was so touching. It was straight from the heart. It wasn't someone who was just trying to pass it was just doing it just to pass. He was speaking from the heart. It was well written. Yeah. So it touches him, and really, it is Harry's story that actually just does push him into go to the past, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to Al and all that. But it really is Harry's story, and that makes him want to go to the past and do something. Now, Jake and Al, first of all, the actor who played Harry. I think I said it was Leon Ripley. Amazing. I think Harry's character was amazing. Even though they changed him a little bit, he was beautiful. The way he delivered his story, beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen him before in a couple of shows and movies and stuff. He's always a pretty good actor.
Yeah, he came out in Star Trek, the original, one episode, and then that I remember, and then I remember seeing him on Under the Dome. But before it really started to tank really bad. But
that was after the first couple of episodes.
So yeah. So we in the first episode we see Jake. We get introduced to Jake, and he's teaching. And the reason I say I feel like he's more apathetic to teaching is because he's showing a video in class. And for myself, whenever I saw a teacher with a TV in the class with VCR, it's usually because it's a substitute teacher. A regular teacher would never bring a VCR into the class.
Yeah, hardly ever. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the reason I feel like he didn't have that passion for teaching anymore. And like I said, in the book, he did have that passion. It's just that he was really disillusioned because of the students nowadays.
Yeah, I think like those are sort of mixed. Like, you know, when students aren't interested, you lose a bit of passion, so you show a movie instead of teaching them. So I think that's all sort of combined into that.
And then another thing that I felt changed a little bit was the relationship between him and Elle. In the book, and I had mentioned this before as well, that I know that Jake and Elle probably weren't best friends, and they wouldn't go out to eat together, they wouldn't go out for a beer together, but you can tell they were really good friends. And in the show, I felt that rural, at least in the first episode, they showed they were more antagonistic to each other, that they liked each other, but they didn't have that close bond that I felt in the book. Even to the point where he chooses Jake to go to the past, not because he knew that he would be the only one that can do it, which is he says in the book. He says, "I know you're the one for the." I'm sorry.
Yeah, your connection dropped there for a sec.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So in the book, you know, there's this connection with them, where it's like it feels like they're really close. While in the show, it feels like I think he says, he goes, because you don't have anything going for you. You need to do this. So why don't you go back and he's real antagonistic to him, towards Jake. I don't know. I didn't feel the closeness as close, and I think later on I do feel that they show some scenes when the flashbacks and so forth where it shows them a little bit closer. But at least in the pilot episode, I didn't feel that closeness from them. Yeah,
he sort of comes across like. You know, I have a store down the street, like its own, like the owner works there. It's a little, you know, supermarket, and like I always say hi to him. I say, "How are you doing?" Like little talks, and that's sort of like how he interacts with him in the show. Yeah. Like he doesn't really know him. He just sort of superficially talks, like, you know.
Yeah. And I know why they did this in the show, but in the show, he decides to go back in time while Jake and Christina, they're signing their divorce papers. And I always felt that was just the weirdest time for him to do that. I know it's only take 2 minutes in the real world. I just feel it's so weird that he just decided to do that right then and there, especially since he was going to be gone for 5 years, because that's when he already decided he was going to try to go save the world, or the JFK. And he comes back, and, you know, we see him, he's already all crumbling because of cancer and whatnot. And I just thought that was weird. It felt out of place, but I guess it was just helped move the story a lot faster than him doing it in the middle of the night and then calling Jake and, like, hey, can you come over? Kind of just got all the stuff out of the way.
No.
So in this episode, we see Al kind of convince him to go into the past. What did you think of when he went back to 1960? And what did you think of the setting?
Yeah, you mean what it looked like?
Yes.
It's what I think 60s America would look like, or late 50s America.
Yeah.
I'm not American, so I have no real perspective on how it was, or I'm not, 55 years old, so I don't really know anything about the 60s, except for like old family pictures. But like when I see like Greece takes place in that time, and that's what it looks like.
Yeah, I think it was beautiful. I think the way that at least that entrance when he goes into the rabbit hole and comes out in 1960, I think it's beautiful. It looks nice. My only problem with that is that where he comes out, it's kind of like in the middle of everything, and like nobody ever even looks at him like, where the hell did this guy come from? Not only did he pop out of thin air, he he's dressed way different.
Well, he's not really dressed that differently.
The first time, remember, he has his leather jacket on.
Yeah, but like, who doesn't have a leather jacket back then?
Well, no, I mean, but everybody has their suits, everybody has their hat.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, he stood out, at least in that sitting.
Yeah.
And in the book, the rabbit hole comes out a little bit more hidden, to where if someone, like, that busy of a street, they're not going to see him. He goes
behind the diner or something.
Yeah, well, it's behind the diner, but it's like behind a gate and so forth, so people can't really get to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he goes and he has like a milkshake in the past, and he comes back in the book, and that's when Al starts telling him pretty much how the rabbit hole works. And if I remember correctly, he kind of just does it really quick. Tells him each time you go back, it's a reset. You go in, you come out. It's just like it never happened. However, Al's able to bring back meat and bring back food, money, and it doesn't go away. So they're not really sure exactly how that works. Are you familiar with other time travel stories or movies or novels?
Oh yeah, I love those.
How did you think that they set up the time travel aspect here in this show?
It's very flimsy, but I don't think it's very important in the story. I think it's supposed to be somewhat of a mystery, like how it works really, because he goes back and changes something, so it doesn't really matter how the rules still apply. It will only apply once he actually changes something.
Yeah, what I like is that it gives you, it just sends you to a certain time. It doesn't, you can't choose where you want to go. And
yeah.
In the show, he goes to 1960, which he has to wait to 3 years to do everything he wants to do. So if he were to fail and come back, you have to wait another 3 years to be able to do all that again. And in the book, he actually goes back to 1958, so he has to wait 5 years. So imagine if he failed the first time, he'd be 10 years older by the next time he comes around. He's like, and so I think it helps where he's in like, I can't just keep going back. I have to. I go back to the same place.
There's a limit to it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. It's not like another movies or places where you choose to go 10 minutes before the assassination or whatever.
Yeah, Bill and Ted time travel situation, where they like, we'll just go back 1 minute before and steal the remote.
And here another thing is, where was I going with this? Oh, like you said, it doesn't really matter in this particular story. It does explain a little bit more in the book, not very well, I believe, but it doesn't matter in the story. But in the show, later on, in a couple of episodes later on, he's asking his students about time travel. And he's got that one student, and I feel that they did this on purpose, because you're going to have those nerds, and we're nerds, not to say we're not nerds, but you're going to have that one nerd. And he's like, well, how is it possible? Do you remember that one student, like, well, how did they do the time travel? How did this happen? And James Franco is just like, that doesn't matter. Just forget about that. If you can do it, what would you do? And I feel like they put that in there specifically to calm that part of the audience down.
Yeah, I guess because there is a lot of different rules in time travel. Well, two major ones. There's Back to the Future and Terminator. So, yeah.
And the thing is with those is that it had, one of them was it's called the grandfather thing, the grandfather problem, where, let's say Marty McFly goes and he pretty much keeps his parents from meeting, so he starts erasing from existence. Well, then how would he go into be in the future, come back in time? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then of course there's also the rules of like that says, well, any meddling in the past that happens or that you're trying to do, you've already done it in the past. You've already completed that, so you're not really doing anything. You're actually just in the loop, pretty much. you're causing the past to happen by going back into the past.
Yep.
So in the show, it doesn't really talk about other things that Al did in the past. I think he talks about one time. So in Al starts to talk to Jake about the different things that he's done and how, because Jake doesn't want to go back in the past. He doesn't want to go save JFK. He's really he's like, how do you know this is gonna work? How do you know it's gonna work? Well, in the book, we see that Al actually saved a girl from being crippled, and we see it in a flashback in the show when he's talking about it. But it's a lot more in the book. So Al goes back.
Yeah.
He saves his girl from being crippled. He goes through a lot of stuff because the past pushes back, and the past pushes back a lot more in the book. I'm sorry, in the show in certain places. So Al shows Jake a clipping of the girl, and she's still paralyzed. So he's like, "Hey, well, if you saved her, why is she paralyzed here in the present?" And he was like, "Well, remember what I said? Every single time you go in and come back, you reset everything." So Jake's like, "Holy crap! I just crippled the girl by going into that and having a root beer float over there in the past." So it's like, oh crap, you have to really think about what you're gonna do. And Jake actually goes back into the past a couple times. First of all, like I said before, it's Harry who actually pushes him to go into the past, because he uses Harry's story as a motivation to go in the past. He goes to the past and sees he's gonna save Harry's family and come back and see what happens. So he goes back in time, and actually, one thing that changed is that Harry is from Derry, and for those of us who have either read or watched the miniseries Derry is the location of where it takes place.
King's fake towns.
Yes, and he actually runs into Beverly and Richie from it. He runs into them, and this is after the fact that they've already beat Pennywise and whatever it is, and they kind of talk to him, and they give him the information he needs. And the interesting thing is that Pennywise almost takes Jake
in the book.
Yeah. There's this part, it doesn't specifically say it's Pennywise or anything like that, but he's walking by with the Barrens where Pennywise lives.
Yeah.
And he says that he feels like something's calling him into that pipe stack, or that thing that leads down into the sewers and all that.
Yeah.
And he goes, and for some reason he didn't feel such a compulsion to go down there. And it's left open to where, is it possible that when the kids beat him, they injured him so bad that he doesn't have that draw that he normally has even when he's at full power. So he feels them, but he doesn't really see him.
Wow.
Yeah. So we Jake actually is able to stay till the night that Harry's dad is going to come in with the hammer. And one thing that they do talk about in the book is that they say that Harry's dad comes in with a hammer. And when you hear hammer, what kind of tool do you think he's carrying?
Well, I'm gonna go on a limb here and say hammer.
Yeah. Well, you saw in the episode, what does he come in? He comes in with a sledgehammer. Yeah. When Jake's there, he's like, holy crap, it's not a hammer. And it's very descriptive of what happens to the kids, because he doesn't save them all in his first try. Tugger, his older brother, he gets hit with the hammer and his brains just splatter everywhere. And even Harry gets hit in the head, but he doesn't die.
Yeah.
In the original story, this time around, he's able to save his sister and Harry, and Tugger is the only one that dies. And he kills the dad, and he comes back to the past, and he finds out that Harry survived, his sister survived, but Harry went on and died in Vietnam. So he goes, either way he saved him, but he went and died in Vietnam. So he actually had a shorter life than he would have. He would have just let it be. And part of Al's reasoning of saving JFK is that Vietnam might not happen. So this is what Jake uses as a reasoning. Well, if I save JFK, maybe Harry will live, because Harry won't go into Vietnam, and he'll be able to live a productive life and actually be something.
Yeah, see, I didn't connect that thought.
Yeah. So, well, because they left that whole thing about him dying, because he only takes that one trip, and that one trip is when he's already going to stay to save JFK.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have any questions so far as the people have brought up?
No. These are all like in the show are all very fleshed out. Not as much as in the book, so I hear, but
Yeah.
At least their motivations are all pretty obvious.
Yeah.
There's no real, hints at, like, that's not really what they mean. There's no betrayals or anything going on.
No.
So yeah, it's fine.
So one of the things that I said I might go ahead and rant on is the first couple of the changes is that we in the show, in the second episode when he's saving Harry, at the end of the episode we get reintroduced to Bill Turkey. I think we see him in the bar when he's trying to find Frank Dunning. Oh, by the way, what did you think about Josh Duhamel as the father?
Good.
He was great.
He came across as very intimidating, which he normally isn't.
Yeah.
Because he's not a very big guy, but apparently he is now.
Yeah, I think he played him perfectly.
Franco.
Yeah, and the thing is that in the book as well, he is a very bad man. He's evil, but he's very charismatic. The people love him. He owns his own butcher shop, and the women love him, and it's that kind of. I think that's the kind of thing that scares me more, is that there's evil out there that just are so easily able to hide among people who are not evil. They hide themselves, and they can attack you at any time.
Charismatic evil is the worst evil.
Yeah,
it's always happened. It's very obvious in the show as well. Like, he has that conversation with Jake in the bar, and they actually get along really well. And at one point you think, like, oh, this is not such a bad guy. And then they take him to the butcher.
Yeah.
And then you sort of appears to be.
Yeah. Well, you could tell he's not a good guy at all.
Yeah.
At all. And I think he was there trying to figure out what the hell Jake was there, because Jake is really bad at lying as far as what he's doing there. So in the book, Bill Turkett is an older man. He's older man. His sister was killed by Frank Dunning, and he can't prove it, but he knows it's true because his sister and his nephew are missing, and he's pretty sure that they've been killed by Frank. And he's pretty much telling Frank, trying to figure out a way to prove that it was him and kill him. And in the show, he's way younger, and Bill Turkett in the book, first of all, he has a heart attack right after, because he actually helps stop Frank. But when he's stopping Frank, he has a heart attack, and he's no longer part of the book. He doesn't die, but he's no longer part of the book.
Oh.
He stays in Derry. So in the second episode recap that I did, I said, I like this because for a show, we need Jake to be able to talk to somebody. And if he's going to be in the past for 3 years, and he's going to be trailing Oswald for 3 years, he needs to be able to have somebody there.
It's a soundboard.
Yeah. So I liked it, but very fast I started to dislike Bill's character. I don't think they wrote him well for the show, and I felt they just wrote him there just to accompany him. Although I liked it at first, it was just he was just there to mess with Jake's plans. He was drunk. He was very emotional. He kept messing with the people he wasn't supposed to be messing with, and I don't think he ever really helped Jake as much as he thought he was. He actually hurt him more.
Definitely.
Yeah.
He's like every interaction he has, like after they handle Frank Dunning, he's just like doing all these things he's not supposed to, which, yeah, you're right. I think he's not written that well, because he should be thankful and really into helping out Jake, and he's just not very good at it.
Yeah, well, the thing also is that he kind of just like, okay, yeah, I'll help you, just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I feel like I kind of feel like he in the book in the series they didn't really explain why he decided he wanted to help, but I feel like he might have just been lost since he no longer had a meaning to avenge his sister's death.
Yeah.
So he kind of just needed to do something, and Jake was telling him, "I'm from the future. I'm going to save the president." So he kind of wanted to do that, but I don't feel like they earned that follow for him. I don't think they earned it because they didn't explain anything. And of course, then he starts messing with Marina, and he starts falling in love with her. And I'm like, oh, come on, this guy. And
yeah,
I was just getting upset with him. It's like he's just there to mess up. And then he was there towards the end. He was there to kind of put a doubt as far as if there's going to be a second shooter or not, because they have that fallout. And he pretty much lets Oswald find the bug in the apartment, and
started off that whole chain reaction.
Yeah, and then Jake goes and locks him in the sane asylum.
Yeah. That was like tough, and it was tough, but it was also sort of funny when he goes like, "It's like you don't need any information, or no, we can tell that he's pretty crazy." Like, okay, like, now
then you see him.
It's all procedure. You have to fill out 1,000 forms, get 10 doctors or something to agree to it.
No, and then I like
oh,
I like Bill's face when he looks around. He sees orderlies. It's like, oh, you son of. And then and this is really where I'm gonna get pissed off. I'm gonna rant here. Is the end of Bill. Like I said, I liked him. Well, let me hear what you think about the end of Bill here.
You mean the way he died?
The way he died, yeah.
Well, now that you mentioned that he's not in the book, I guess it makes more sense. But to me, it came off as a bit weird. Like, he's not really crazy, so why is he all of a sudden acting completely crazy? I mean, he's in there for how long?
I think he's in there for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, in 2 weeks, like, you can't make someone completely insane and suicidal in 2 weeks unless they're, waterboarding him on a daily basis.
Well, they are doing the electroshock therapy to him, but here's the thing: you're not crazy. You know that all that stuff has happened for real, right?
Yeah.
Why not just say, oh no, okay, because what they're trying to do is keep him from saying, hey, yeah, you're right. This is all crazy. This is all talk, So why not stop saying, okay, that nothing happened, that didn't happen. Jake, my brother is not from the past. From the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Why continue to get tortured because you don't want to say that you're wrong? And
yeah, if that's the extent of your rant,
no,
you're completely right. Yeah, like I said, you can't make someone crazy in 2 weeks, even if you give them electroshock therapy. Like, if a sane person enters unwillingly an asylum like that, especially there, you should be able to talk your way out of it.
Yeah, and the thing is that then they go and kill him. I'm like, oh. I go, yes, I was getting upset at the character. I was getting really... I didn't like him anymore. But Why did you have to kill him? Why did you bring him along just to kill him? I was like, come on. I wouldn't mind if he died. Let's say on the day of the shooting, with Oswald taking him out. But
Yeah.
I was like, come on, man. You just had him here, and then he actually caused him to kill himself because he was like, no, everything is real. Everything is like, no. Let's say his psyche did break, right, while he was in the first 2 weeks, but then Jake just pushes him right there. They're still in the insane asylum, and he's pushing him, and he's pushing him. He doesn't want to let him go home. I need your help. I need your help. Come on, man. Like, the writing was not well done for this character, and I really would have enjoyed a better written character for Bill, because I did want somebody to be able to talk with Jake. I didn't want Jake to be struggling. Just, we need some, like you said, a soundboard. We need somebody to run ideas off of.
Yeah. Yeah, because like books are always filled with inner monologue, and yeah, that's what one of those characters is for.